Hey kids, come back at you again with another lesson. Today we're going to be talking about some basic scale patterns and some of the fundamental scales that you need to know. Everything I played today is going to be done on violin, so it's a little bit easier to see what's going on. But the pattern ideas are going to be the same for all of the instruments except, of course, for the bass, because basses are always going to be just a little bit different. So basses, as we go through these scales, I'll be calling out what the letter names are that we're going to be playing and where you should be starting for each of these scale patterns. For cellos, I'll be telling you what finger patterns that you should be using, and violins and violas, obviously you'll be able to see what I'm doing as well as hear what the scale patterns and finger patterns are going to be for each new idea. So to begin, obviously you want to make sure that our instrument is in tune from each string all the way across. If you haven't done that yet, please take a moment to take care of that part on your own. We want to make sure that our bow is well set up. Every day at the start, before we play anything, we always want to check that lovely bow hold so that we got fingers are curled relaxed around the stick. Violins and violas, the fingerprints are roughly where that frog's eye is, and the pinky rests on top with a bent thumb underneath. For cellos and basses, similar with straight fingers with even gaps, and again a bent thumb underneath with a nice relaxed hold here. Violins, violas up top, make sure we got a nice straight and even wrist, no pancaking, no doing anything weird here. Just nice and relaxed, the thumb peeks over the edge and the fingers have nice flat tabletops to them. So once we got a good setup, let's start with what is just our most basic scale. This is just a D major scale, as we have all played before. And we're just going to go in quarter notes up and down, repeating the top note. Everybody can play along on this one. 1, 2, ready, go. So violins and violas are using what we call the 2-3 finger pattern because 2 and 3 are connected. Cellos, you're using a 1-3-4 finger pattern, and basses, you're using a little bit of a mix of everything. So what we're going to do is take this scale and move it around our instrument a little bit. Our finger pattern for the smaller instruments is going to stay the exact same. So I would like for violas and cellos to start on their C string, lowest string, and you can play the scale one more time. Violins and basses are going to start on G to play a G major scale. For the smaller instruments, again, you're starting on an open string and the finger pattern is the exact same. For basses, you're starting on low second finger G, and you're going to go all the way up using only F sharp to go from G to G. So from our combined lowest strings, we should be playing something like this. 1, 2, ready, go. Same pattern, new scale. Let's move over one string. You're either now on your G or you're back on a D major scale. 1, 2, ready, go. Now we're moving over to our last string, and this is our, for violins, our A major scale. Violas, now you're back, violas and cellos are back on a D scale. And basses, you're going to be playing an A major scale. Start on your open A string, and then treat it just like you did a D major scale with the same finger pattern and the same shifting. It's just backwards one string. So the exact same pattern that we've done before on our last couple of strings. 1, 2, ready, go. all throughout. Be checking for your bow and how you're holding it. Don't let anything start to go weird or tense or straight on you. Everything should be in nice relaxed arcs throughout all of your fingers. Knuckles are all bent. With the left hand, making sure that cellos and basses, we're keeping the elbow a little bit elevated and the fingers nice and open in whichever pattern we are using for our instrument. Violins and violas, making sure the fingertip comes down. The fingers have a nice tabletop above, a little bit of air inside the palm, and a nice relaxed elbow and wrist that just relaxes here. Now for our second finger pattern, this is going to be a typical scale pattern that is now going to use a lowered second finger. So for violins, violas, we're now using our 1-2 pattern, or a low 2. For cellos, you're going to be using only 1, 2, or 4. And basses, again, you'll be using a little bit of a mix of everything. The first scale that we're going to play is one that you may have played already before, and this is just our basic C major scale. So all instruments are going to be starting on your G string with your 1, 2, and 3 all pressed down, and for cellos you'll add the 4. For basses, you're going to start on second finger C off of your A string. Now to get this scale to come out like a nice major scale, once again, we're using that low 2 from this note. We're no longer on an open string, so the pattern's going to have to change just a little bit. Listen one time, and I should get C, D is open, E is 1, F natural is low 2, the next for G, an open A, first finger B, and then another low 2 for C. Let's put that all together and go on up and down. And a reminder, you're always welcome to pause and go back on this video if anything flies by you a little quick. That's one of the beautiful things about technology. Here we go on a C major scale using a low 2 pattern. No sharps, no flats. 1, 2, ready, go. Practice that several times to make sure you're really comfortable with it. And if you are feeling good about that C major scale, then what you will find is now you can move over by one string or the other, depending on if you're a viola or cello, and you're going to move down to your C string. You can do the same pattern and play an F scale, starting on your low C string. Same fingers, you now create a brand new F scale. For violins, you can move over to a higher string, and from your third finger now you're starting on G, and we're going to be playing a higher octave of that same G scale that we played earlier. So whichever scale you need to move to, go ahead and pause the video and take a second to practice that now. The finger pattern remains the same, it's just what starting note you're going to be on. So or, and if you really want to get crazy, you can start shifting up on the next one. Basses, you're going to be checking out an F scale as your second scale, or you can go back and replay your G scale. Take a second to work through those, and we'll be coming back at you more just a little bit. Alright kids, this next chunk of the video is going to be just simply going through all of the major scales that we just worked through on the various instruments, on various strings. Not everyone will be able to play through each of these scales depending on your instrument. Only some of them will be easily accessible in this particular way. I'll be guiding you through which you should be playing and which you should be working on, as well as what finger patterns you might be needing for each of these scales. We're going to be going through starting with an F major scale to C major, G major, D major, everyone's favorite, and lastly, A major. So let's get started with our F scale, and this is going to be for the violas and cellos. You should be starting on your lowest string with all fingers from C, D, E, and F all started down. And you're going to be using a low 2-finger pattern to make this one successful. So an F major scale, low 2-finger pattern. Here we go, violas and cellos. 1, 2, ready, go. Beautiful. After our F scale, let's move to the C scale, which just about everybody should be able to participate on. Off of your G string for violins, violas, and cellos, you're going to add G, A, B, and C will be our first to start off with. And for basses, you're going to start on second finger C from your A string. And it should go much like the G scale that you've probably played many times. Starting on our C, we're going to be mostly using, all of us, using a low 2-finger pattern to get all of our natural notes to come out. Let's start on our C scale. 1, 2, ready, go. The next scale that we have available to us is our G scale. Basses, you're going to start on second finger G and work your way up using only F sharp to get to your open G. If you are a viola or cello, you're just going to start on your open G and do your basic high 2 or 1, 3, 4 finger pattern, just like your D scale. Violins, however, you have two options. You can either start on your open G string and play it just like your D major scale would naturally fall with a 2-3 pattern, or you can start on third finger G and continue going up using a low 2 pattern to get up to your high G on your little E string. It's good to practice both. For now, pick one or the other, and then flip back to this chunk of the video and try it again. I'll be playing on the lower octave along with most of the group. Here's our G scale with 1 sharp, F sharp. 1, 2, ready, go. Wonderful. Next scale, everyone's favorite. This is just a D major scale, much like we started our session with. Everybody should know how to play this one at this point. Normal 2-3 finger pattern, 1, 3, 4 for the cellos. Let's just start on our open D. 2 sharps, F sharp, and C sharp are in play. 1, 2, ready, go. And our last scale is going to be our A major scale, and this one is for the violins and basses. Violins, your job is easy. We're just on our open A, and you just play that same scale you just did. We're just over a string. Basses, you're going to play the exact same scale that you just did. You're just going to start backwards a string on your open A and include the same shift to third position that you would normally for a D scale. A major, we're going to include F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. start getting these basic scales memorized. Soon we'll be able to move on to 2-octave scales, eventually 3-octave scales, and one day if you keep at it, there are some 4-octave scales that you can also run when you really know your stuff. Please take another look at this video, roll back through the scales that you need to run through on this last little chunk. Keep checking in with our smart music work that you should be seeing popping up. And if you have any questions or issues, please feel free to email me at sgreen@kyrene.org. Hope you have a wonderful day, kids.